guys, CG here. Welcome to my very first Minecraft Bedrock video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a minimum clear requirement system, where the system will check to see if a player has enough of an item to either buy or sell something. I'm also going to teach you how to create a system that will sell all of your currency item into this system for currency. So that can be any item you want. You can also have multiple items set up in the system. So you can use diamonds and emeralds or whatever. You can have multiple items in the system, but I'll show you how to set all that up. Let's get right into it. So right off the bat, I have a lot to go over here, so I'm going to go over things as quickly as possible. This is a mock of a selling system, a selling station. You don't have to set it up like this, but I do recommend that your shops intelligently target the player. So when I walk into this building and walk near this orange block over here, I will be tagged with the tag selling so that the system can identify me as someone who's using the system, and it will make that noise. If you don't know how to do these simple tags, let me know and I can show you in another video. But the reason that we do these tags is so that these systems, the command blocks, when they execute their codes, they will execute the codes at the nearest player unless you have all these other codes in place. But they will basically execute their codes and send their the items or whatever their effects to the nearest player. In this case, you want to make sure they're targeting the nearest player with the selling tag. That way it doesn't target players outside the building who may be closer to the command blocks, like outside these windows, than you are. It's just really important to make sure you set up your systems to be smartly targeting the players. Okay, so let's get right into the system. I'm going to try to go over this as fast as possible just because there is really so much to go over. Actually, I'm going to throw one of these. I don't need all these. I have 64 diamonds on me right now. That's it. And I have two systems. These are the two systems I'm going to go over. So here's a system that you can sell all of your diamonds for 100 credits each. I'm using credits in my system. It's just money. You can call it whatever you want, so it doesn't really matter. And this system over here is checking to make sure I have exactly 64 diamonds before it will execute. If I don't have 64 diamonds, it will return any diamonds that it's taken to me flawlessly. It will never mess up. So that's really important. That's awesome. So let's get into this. So I have 63 diamonds in my hand right now. When I click this, clearly it's not going to work. You can see everything's kicked into motion. I'm getting my diamonds back because I did not have enough. The system realized, hey, you don't have 64 diamonds, so we're going to give you back your 63 diamonds. It will do this for no matter how many items you have, so long as it's less than 64. So I can do it with 10, and of course it will have the same effect. I will show you a quick little thing I had to do to make this work with a single diamond. Initially, when I first built the system a few iterations ago, it was getting caught with one diamond and freezing. It was like halting the system. Now it doesn't do that. You get the diamond back, no problem. Okay, and of course, it goes without saying that the system is smart, and if I do have 64 diamonds, it will work properly. There we go. Now, so that's one thing I'm going to teach you how to build. And another thing I'm going to teach you how to build, here's more diamonds right here, is this system. Now this system is meant for if you want to sell all of your diamonds in your inventory into the system immediately. Okay, here we go. So everything kicked into motion, it's all powered, I can leave, and it will keep on processing. So long as these are in a ticking area, which means they're loaded at all times, then you can leave the entire area and go as far away as you want, and the system will keep on running. And just to let you guys know, these systems execute as fast as possible in this game. I don't think there's a way to do this any faster. It might be technically possible with command blocks if you can double up a command on a single tick. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, not command block, a function command. I don't know if you can technically do that with the function. You might be able to. But basically, these commands issue at 20 times a second, which is the fastest possible in Minecraft. So basically, what that would mean is that when it's counting up your diamonds, it's counting up at 20 a second. So that's incredibly quick. And I've never seen it done like this before. When I was trying to learn how to create a system like this, back when I was newer to command blocks, all I could find was circuits that counted your items using redstone circuits, and it was really slow, laggy, and there was all sorts of issues. It was oftentimes off by a couple. It was not very accurate, but this is flawless. So I'm excited to show you this. Okay, let's get right into it. I'm going to stress one thing here. It's definitely important that you pause when you need to and just copy down copy down a command or something, because I'm going to be trying to go as quick as possible. I do have a lot to go over, as you can see here. On average, almost all these green blocks, these are all chain command blocks. All of them, unless I say otherwise, there are a couple exceptions. Unless I say otherwise, these are all going to be, let me switch over my game board. These are all going to be chain, conditional, always active for every single one of these, unless I say otherwise. The impulse blocks, these orangey ones, these are always going to be impulse, unconditional, needs redstone. But again, none of these have tick delays. I will say if they do, if there's any exceptions, I will make note of that. And then these repeating blocks right here are all repeat, unconditional, needs redstone. And if there's any exceptions to that rule, I will be sure to note you on that. Okay. So these systems are really smart. Almost none of these are running unless the system itself is running. So it's all waiting for an input, and then it activates, and then it deactivates. So none of these repeating blocks are running until they need to be. The only exception is I have a smart little system back here to reset if it's like a fail-safe system. This is technically always running. So this is actually an optional part of the system, and I'll go over that too. Okay, so let's get to this system right now. So when you power the system, clearly it powers this block, which then goes through this comparator and into this initial block. This block right here is clear at P, tag equals selling, diamond 0 or 0. So what that's doing is it's looking for the nearest player with the selling tag, which is myself, the person who likely activated the system. Make sure you stand close when you click buttons too, otherwise if a player is closer, they will receive the stuff instead of you. Anyway, so when you try to clear 0 0 of an item from someone, you're not taking away anything from the player. You're not removing a diamond because you're doing 0 0. And the reason we do that in Bedrock Edition is because that's the only way in Bedrock that we can check to see if a player has that item in their inventory. And we don't know where in their inventory it is, but we know even if it fails to clear it from them, we know that they have it in their inventory. So if I have diamond and I click that button, then and this activates, it will see if I have diamond, and it will either successfully execute if I do have diamond. It will be a positive execution, or it will not execute. It will fail to execute if I have no diamonds. So right now, I have no diamonds on me. If I do click this button again, it will fail. But before I do that, an important note, there's a huge difference between repeaters and comparators when it comes to command blocks. And you may or may not know this, but if you're new, it's really important to understand. So comparators, when they're facing away from any command block, they will pick up the positive or failing aspect of that block. So if it successfully executes, they will power and always emit power until they fail again. So this, if you recall when I first showed you the system a couple minutes ago, this has stayed on ever since, because the last time it executed successfully. So this will stay powered until someone uses this and it fails. And if only when this block fails will this turn off. Because of the fact that comparators can detect if a block successfully executes or if it fails, we can basically create conditional if-then statements using that understanding. So with that said, we have a simple if-then statement going on right over here. This is our negative feedback system, and this would be our positive feedback system. So if we do have diamonds on us, this system will execute all the way up the chain. If we don't have diamonds, it will stop at this command right here. It will not go up this chain because these are all conditional. And it will instead go over here and move up this chain. And now the reason this works is because, for one, this block right here is going to be testing for whether this block over here is an unpowered comparator or not. It can basically detect its power. So it knows if it's unpowered, and that means that it knows if you have no diamonds. So when this signal comes through, it powers this block, and then it goes right into here with a slight tick delay. You need to have a 2-tick delay in order to give this time to update before it goes into this block, because you want it to be accurate. You don't want it to be wrong, of course. You need it to be completely perfect. So you need that 2 tick delay. Normally when you place a repeater, it's initially 1 tick delay by default. So you want to click it once more for 2 tick delays. That's what you want here. And by the way, this is a really useful hint, and if this is new to you, just type mind blown in the chat. But if you mouse 3 click, which is your mouse wheel, you press that in, and you're looking at a block, in creative mode it will select that block right away. Now, it sounds absurd because I'm sure many of you know this, but I actually never knew this until, I don't know, somewhat recently, and it kind of blew my mind. My mind was totally blown when I figured this out. It just made life so much easier. But then, if that's not cool, then this is just amazing to me. You can hold down Control and then press the same button, so mouse wheel button press, so mouse 3, and then it will select that exact item, that block, but with the data. So here you can see I have one command block that I clicked with the regular method without holding Control. You can do this, I'm pretty sure you can do this on the other platforms too, I just don't know which buttons they are. Anyway, so, and then this one is the same thing, only no, this one has a data variant, as you can see. So because it has data, well, this one's without data, right? So nothing special here. But the one with data, as you can imagine, has data. Everything about it is the same. It copies it verbatim. It's the same thing. And that's very, very helpful when you're making stuff, because it lets you basically move things over. If you place them in the wrong spot, you can like copy this whole row and place it over here. Like maybe you're not sure about a build yet, and it's kind of a work in progress, and you don't know if you type a command and you want to set it aside and use it later. It's kind of good for that kind of stuff. It's definitely good for iterating and coming up with builds. Okay, so I'm going to get into the coding right now, and again, if it's too quick, just pause, because I have a lot to get through and I really don't want this to be too long. So when you start, like I said, it first checks to see if you have any diamond on you. If you don't have any diamond, this is going to fail. And again, impulse unconditional needs redstone. So we're clearing at P, tag equals selling, diamond, 0, 0. I'm going to go over the negative feedback loop first, just because it's short, you can get it out of the way quick. So after this little tick delay, it will, so the pulse will go into this block here. This block is impulse unconditional needs redstone. Test for blocks. Here's like the coordinates of that unpowered comparator, and it's just testing to see if that comparator is unpowered, like I told you. Again, that's conditional. So if it's unpowered, then this will happen. So when it's unpowered, which means I have no diamonds, then this will happen. So it will alert the player, title at P, tag equals selling, action bar, and it will give them a message that says you don't have any diamonds. I think it's important to provide feedback, because it just makes the system feel more legitimate and more like it's a part of the game naturally. Any game with systems like this would have some sort of feedback, whether it's visual, audio, or otherwise. So I think it's important to do this whenever you can with command blocks. And if you add particles, that's great. That's another way of adding more to your systems. Here, we're also going to play a negative sound. So play sound note.base at P tag equals selling. And then this up here is technically optional, but I made these systems, both these systems are so smart that you can disconnect in the middle of using them and they will reset with no problem. And then when you come back on, you can continue where you left off without an issue. So they're basically foolproof. And that took a lot of thought to make these systems like that, because these are designed for single player worlds, realms, and servers, but specifically realms and servers. I really wanted them to be perfect for multiplayer environments. That's what they're built for, really. So with that said, it's important that if a player disconnects, the only way they can break the system is if they disconnect in the middle of it. So basically I made sure that they couldn't break it by doing that. So if they disconnect when the system is currently running, it will totally reset back to its initial starting state, no issues, and it'll be ready for the next player. The only caveat is when that player returns, they will still have the tag that the system has assigned to them. And in order for them to run the system to remove the tag, they just have to drop any diamonds they have on them for a second, run the system, so they get that negative feedback loop. And that negative feedback loop at the top of it, as you can see, removes that tag. Because what happens is, if they go to click the button when they do have diamonds and they already have the tag, maybe they got disconnected or something, if they click the button, it will get to this command, and where it's trying to add that tag to that player, but it won't be able to because that player already has that tag. So it will fail, and then these commands won't succeed. They won't execute, which means the system won't start. So they won't be able to resume until they drop their diamonds quickly and then click the button again. So I think that's a good compromise. It's the smartest way I could build it. So I think it's pretty cool. I think very cool. Okay. So I went over these. You understand that now, and the point of this is just, again, a failsafe. Now, if it does execute properly, here's the command again. If this executes properly, you do have diamonds on you. It will add that tag to you, tag at P, tag equals selling, add 64D. 64D is just an abbreviation I use to represent 64 diamonds. You can name it whatever you want. Now this is just going to place a redstone block to start the system. So set block, whatever the coordinates are for you, redstone _ block. And then this is basically another failsafe I built into the system. Again, it's quite a smart system. So this is going to start, this is going to replace this comparator here with air. So it's going to basically delete this comparator. That way this button is rendered useless. This system over here does the exact same thing. Once it starts, this disappears, this comparator, and the system will kick into gear, and this button will be disabled. That way another player can't come up and click the button and then mess up the system, so that they can't add themselves to the system. They can't add the tag to themselves to confuse the system. There'll only be one player with this tag at all times. And even if they disconnect and come back, the system's pretty smart at handling it. So, okay. So that's a safety. At the end of the system, it will clone itself back into place, replace it, so it's like it never disappeared. And if you want to see what that looks like, I'll quickly give myself diamonds, and you can see. We'll just give myself 30 for now, 32. So I have 32 diamonds. As soon as I click it, that will vanish, gone. And once it ends, it will be replaced. Done. Okay, great. Okay, so now that makes sense, this start system, where this is placed in this block, this redstone block, is actually right in this spot right here. So imagine this yellow wool block. Imagine that was a redstone block. That's where it's placing it, and this is what's powering and running the system. Now, this bottom chain command right here, this bottom chain, is basically the chain that handles if it properly executes. Like if you have 64 diamonds, this whole chain will execute and it will finish. And these two blocks right here, these are responsible for counting the diamonds. If you do not have enough diamonds, then it will move on to the upper system, where it will then return those diamonds to you. You can see return diamonds right there. It will return the diamonds to you until you've been paid back fully for the diamonds that have been taken, and then it will carry on these commands. The way I've done this, I'm pretty proud of how this works. The way I've done this is I basically created a conditional block right here. So this block has a specific code that will not let it pass this point unless a very specific condition is met. So because of that, it will stop at this block, and while it's stopped there, these two blocks will keep on going back and forth. So it will clear one diamond. So we're going to go clear at P, tag equals 64D, diamond 0, 1. So we're going to take one diamond away from that player, and then we're going to add that diamond into the scoreboard players at P, tag equals 64D, diamonds 1. So this is where I have to explain that you need some additional scoreboards for the system. So that in order for the system to work, you're going to need a couple scoreboards. You're going to need the money scoreboard. You're going to need a counting scoreboard, one counting scoreboard for each item that you want to add to your system. So if you have diamonds in your system for currency, and you also have like emeralds for currency, you're going to want a scoreboard for each of those. And you're also going to need a scoreboard that determines the values of those diamonds and also the emeralds or whatever. So you need basically a value system, which is its own scoreboard. And I will show you how to do that in a moment. But basically what happens is it will clear one diamond and it will add one count to your system. Clear one diamond, add to the diamond count. Clear, add to the diamond count. And, whoops, that was not supposed to happen. Don't laugh. So this block is setting this redstone here. It's going to return that to air. But instead of using just the regular set block command, it's executing from the player who's using the system, and then it's going to set the block from there. However, this line right here, the scores equals diamonds equals 64. That basically means that the system cannot move forward until this player who has a tag 64 diamonds has a score of a diamond count of 64. So it will not progress forward past this command block. This command block cannot possibly execute until the player has a count of 64 diamonds. So basically that might never be true because they might not have 64 diamonds. And I will show you how that works and how it goes up to here next. But let's go over scoreboards. Let's turn off caps, scoreboard, objectives, add. Okay, so firstly, you should already have a money system when you go into this. Now you need to add a counting system. So you can name this whatever you want. You can call it diamond count if you want, or diamonds, whatever you want to call it. It might be easier if you call it diamond count. It might be a little bit less confusing when you are reading everything back to yourself, because it just makes it a little bit easier and straightforward. But I've called mine diamonds. And then you'd have to add dummy at the end, because there's only one type of scoreboard objective in Bedrock Edition, which is the dummy kind, whereas Java has a bunch of different kinds of objectives already. So at the very end, just so you're aware, this is where you would place the name of how you want to appear in a set when you set the display. So if you wanted to display like, let's see, colors. Yeah, okay, we'll do this. Okay, so if you want it to look like this when it displays, that argument at the very end after dummy, however that looks there is how it's going to look when it displays. It doesn't have to be the same name. It can be whatever you want. So an example of when it doesn't have to be the same name is you might call the objective money objective, but you might name the after dummy you might name it cash. And in this case, I have a money objective that I've called after the dummy I've called credits. So that's where you would input the name that shows up when the scoreboard is displayed. That's important. Hopefully that's clear to you guys. Anyway, so you would add a diamonds dummy, and this is where you would store all of that information for the counting into. And you would do that. You would make a scoreboard like that for each item that you want to count. So if you want to count emeralds, make an emerald scoreboard like that, and then you can count and save it into that. But now we need to make an area where we can save the value of these items so that we can do some math and get the correct values later. So we're going to do cell values, and you can name this whatever you want. I just chose cell values. I've already done this, so I'm not going to click enter. But yeah, so this will be a scoreboard where we specifically determine what the value of everything in our system is going to be. So if I was to click enter, then that scoreboard would be made. So okay, but now we need to add some imaginary players, basically some fake players to that system, in order to set the value of the items. So in this case, we're going to do scoreboard players set, because we want to set the value specifically. And rather, at this point, this is where it's looking for the player selection argument, like who do you want to select? We're not going to type in anything here. We're actually going to make up a fake player, and this player is going to then represent the value of that item. So in this case, we can do diamond value if we want. We can name it that. I've named it just diamond. So diamond is so basically scoreboard player set diamond. So this is the player's name. The imaginary player's name is Diamond, and or diamonds, whatever you want to do. And then you want to then select which scoreboard you want to set their value on. So we want to affect their value on cell values, of course. So now the next number I type in here will be the value that the diamonds become in that cell values. So basically, this can be whatever you want. If you want diamonds to be worth 1,000 cash, credits, dollars, whatever you have in your system. If you want it to be worth 1,000, this is where you would do that, and that's great. I've determined I want it to be set to 100. I've also determined that I also use emeralds in my system. I've determined emeralds are going to be worth 20. So then I would do this. And these can all be in the same system. Like these can all be in the same cell values, just different items. I've already done this, and I'll show you what that looks like. Normally you wouldn't display this. I'm just going to display it so you can see what it looks like. So scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar, and then we're going to do cell values. So right now you can see diamond and emerald are both listed on the right hand side where it says cell values, and that 120 are their values respectively. So yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty easy to do. I'm going to set it back to my money. Okay, now that that's done, let's get into the whole rest of this chain and the rest of all this. Sorry, there's a lot of explaining, but there's just a lot to go over. Okay, so these will iterate back and forth because they can't continue. So you have this command, clear IP, diamond 01. So when you're using the clear command, the very first number represents the data value. So that's like the data value of that item. And the second number represents the quantity you want to remove. In this case, we're going to do 1. We want to do 1 at a time so we can keep track of it properly. This is the opposite of when you're using the give command, if you didn't know this. When you use the give command, the very first number is the quantity that you want to give. The second number is the data value. So I don't know why Mojang decided to switch that between the two commands. It just makes it more confusing for new players. Okay, so like I said, here's this command again. Scoreboard players add IP tag equals 64D diamonds, which is my diamond count, 1. So every time it clears 1 diamond, it adds another diamond to my count. Once it gets to a diamond count of 64, assuming it gets that high, it might not, but let's assume it did. Say you got to 64 diamonds, and it said, okay, yep, the person who has this tag also has this diamond count score of 64. Then when that's true, it will set block 10, set the block with this coordinate to air. In this case, it's basically removing this redstone block that it was started the system to begin with, because now we don't need that anymore. We need to remove that because the system basically just needs to finish now. Now we need to multiply and add. And luckily, our trusty command blocks can do that for us pretty much instantly, which is like amazing. So this looks confusing, but I promise it's not that bad. Again, all chain, conditional, always active. Okay. So scoreboard players operation. So you're taking the score. This is an operation. This is a specific command. So now you're going to do some math. This says we're going to do some math with this player's values here. Again, we're targeting the player using the system. The player who set the system into motion, and we're going to do multiply equals, and that means we're going to multiply the counted number of diamonds, which is the first argument, basically our diamond count. We're going to multiply our diamond count by the diamond, which is a name. This is where the name goes. Diamond is that made up player name. Diamond cell values. So basically, it's going to multiply the number of diamonds that we have by the value that we've set diamonds to be, which is 100. And then it's going to store that new value back into the diamonds counting scoreboard. So that's why it's multiply equals, because once it does the math, it stores it back into the first argument. It can multiplies or adds or whatever. It does this computation with the second scoreboard, but then it stores it back into the first scoreboard. So once this is done, it's important to understand that once this is done, our diamond count scoreboard will now no longer have like a number of 20, it counted 20 diamonds. Now it will have 20 times 100, and it will have the result of that math saved into that scoreboard instead of the initial number it had. Now, with that said, we need to add that number to our money system. So scoreboard players operation, again, math, targeting that same player again. We're going to add an equals, which means we're going to add the following value into the first value. So we're going to take the same player's diamond count score, which is now the multiplied value, and we're going to add that into the money value for that same player. That way, the conversion is complete. The diamonds have been counted, they've been multiplied by the corrected value, and that value has then been added into currency system pretty much immediately. It's incredibly quick. Now we're going to issue some positive feedback to the player because the system is done and it's executed successfully. Diamonds sold successfully. Title at P, you can see that. Action bar again, those are all messages that appear just above your HUD at the bottom of the screen. Diamonds sold successfully. If you don't know how to color text, just Google colored text in Minecraft and you'll find a whole bunch of information on that. It's real simple. Now we're going to play a positive sound, so play sound random.orb at the player, tag equals 64D. And now this is critical. We've already accounted for the diamonds that have been taken and sold. So now we need to make sure that we set that diamond count score back to 0, because right now it still has the multiplied values saved into it. So we need it to be reset back to 0 so that it will be accurate the next time you go to use the system and you won't get basically free money. You want to make sure that the system's not broken. It has to be smart. So you need to now, before the system basically ends its process, you want to make sure that it sets that player's diamonds score, which is our diamonds count. It's our diamond count scoreboard. You want to make sure that sets back to 0. That's what this is doing here. Now we want to remove the tag. You only want to remove the tag when you're done issuing commands to that player specifically, and we're done doing that, so we can remove it now. So we're targeting all players who have this tag. I specifically use @A because in the event that somebody left the game at some point in time and came back and they still had this tag on them for some reason, this would ensure that the tag was removed from them if they're in the game somewhere else. So it's just another smart fail-safe that I put into the system to help make things smooth across the board. And then this command right here will clone the comparator back to the very, very beginning to basically re-enable that button. So now somebody else can use the system. And the way these clone commands work, and tildes in general, if you're confused by the tildes are used when they're executing from the location of where the command is executing from. So in this case, this command is coming from the command block. So the command is executing from the command block. So if we use tilde, it's saying instead of putting a specific XYZ in, use the XYZ that the command block itself occupies. And because the clone command can actually be a larger area than just one block, there's actually 2 possible XYZ values that you could put in here. But because we're only cloning one block, we're going to just put the same XYZ twice in a row. And what this one here is we can basically say, yes, use the coordinates from the block but at the Y value, go up 1 because we don't want it to execute right at the block itself because then it would be the command block. We want to go up 1 from the command block. So here we can put 1. If you put 2 there, it would go 2 spaces above the command block, but we only need 1. And then this last number here is the location that the clone command actually clones the block to, which is, again, way back there at the beginning to start the system again. So when you clone something like this, it's important to make sure that it's facing in the correct direction. So this will clone right back and be in the proper direction. You would not want this to be facing like this way. It would not work when it clones back. Okay, so now I have to explain what happens if you never get to 64 diamonds, if you don't have 64 diamonds. So if these iterate over and over, removing diamonds and counting, adding 1, removing, counting 1, if that happens and it never reaches 64, eventually what's going to happen, you're going to run out of diamonds, clearly. While you have diamonds, this is going to be outputting a positive signal. Again, this is why comparators are so powerful. This is another if-then statement. So this is saying if this is testing positively, power this and keep this powered, or depower this. But as soon as this doesn't have a signal, as soon as this fails to execute, it will turn this off. So if you don't have diamonds, this will turn off, and then it will power this system because then this torch will turn back on because it's not being powered down here. Once this torch turns back on, it will activate these 2 blocks. And what these 2 blocks are doing, there's an air block and a redstone block. These basically you have to remove the redstone block from here and place a new one somewhere up here so that it can start this system up here. Because this system is done, you don't need to use this bottom part anymore. You need to move on to the next system. So that's what this is. So here, set block coordinates air 0, impulse unconditional needs redstone. There's no tick delay or anything. And then we're going to set a redstone block in position right about here, I believe. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it's touching it. Actually, no, you'd want it here. You would not want it right here because it would be touching this block. Not that it really matters, but yeah, you want it to be right there. Okay, so that will set into motion this series of commands. Now this has another failsafe. I'll show you that. So now we know that the player does not have enough diamonds for the system. So scoreboard players remove. So for a player, basically it's going to say, what this is saying here is if this player has 1 or more diamonds, take 1 diamond away from their score, from their diamond count score. So that's what this is doing. So scoreboard players remove, and then this is the intricate selector here, which is again making sure that they have 1 or more. That's what the 1 dot dot means. 1 dot dot means 1 or more. If you did like dot dot 10, it would be 10 or under. So the dot dot's really useful. Or you could just leave it 1 and it would have to be 1. But anyway, in this case, we need this to be 1 dot dot in order for this to work. So when this is true, 1 diamond will be removed from the score, from the diamond count score. And at the same time, once 1 diamond is removed from the diamond count score, it will give the player 1 diamond back in return. So basically it will say it said, oh, you only had 32 diamonds, you did not have 64. Okay, it's going to take 1 diamond out of that count and then give it back to you. Take 1 diamond out of that count and give it back to you. Take 1 diamond out of that count and give it back to you. Hopefully that makes sense. And it's only going to go to these 2 command blocks because again, I'm pretty smart. My God, I'm pretty proud of myself for the system because it took so much time to kind of figure this stuff out. This is all trial and error. I can't tell you how many hours I spent on systems leading up to this because this is like the most advanced version of my systems now. But basically, again, at this message right here at this block, it can't continue until these 2 blocks have totally reduced your diamond count score to 0, which means you've gotten back all of your diamonds. It will not fail. Here, if you look at it, title at P, again, tag equals 64 diamonds, D. Score, now here, it's saying the score for this player has to be diamonds, so a diamond count of 0 in order to continue. If this diamonds count score is not 0, then this command can never execute. So only once those have the counting returning blocks have counted enough to return all of your diamonds, then this will continue the rest of the command. So then once it does continue the command, it will say not enough diamonds, it will above your action bar, and then the rest of the command will pan out. So play note base at p tag equals 64D, and then at this point we don't need the tag anymore, so we can remove the tag. Now we need to remove that redstone block that's at the beginning of the chain because we don't need that powered anymore. So we had a redstone block right here. Now we can get rid of that because we need the system to be reset for the next use. And then this right here, again, same exact command as below. It just clones this exact command, this exact comparator right back into place over there. Now this bit right here, this is a small system I had to put into place just to account for if a player pressed the button and they had 1 diamond. Because if they have 1 diamond or 1 item that you're counting for, the system unfortunately basically fails to execute. And I think it's because it basically freezes and it halts the whole system. And the reason I believe that happens is something to do with how fast the signals come out of here, and it doesn't register in time, and a block stays where it shouldn't, and it just messes things up. So basically what you want here is you want to place a repeater going over here at 4 ticks delay, so it's maximum delay, going into again, this is a very specifically coded air set block. It's like set air block. So if you look at this, execute at player. So rather than doing set block, I'm doing execute at player. So I'm executing at the player who's using the system, and I'm making sure that their diamond score is exactly 1, which means that they have exactly 1 diamond counted, which again would be if they only had 1 diamond, for which was halting the system. The reason we have, this, by the way, this is the only command block in the system that has a delay in ticks, so you need to have 10 ticks of delay. So this one block right here, I can't stress this enough, it has to be impulse, unconditional, needs redstone, 10 ticks of delay. You need that. You have to have that. And then along with these 4 ticks. So now that that's the case, the reason it's set up like this with these delays is because when you click this button and you start the system and it executes properly, maybe you do have more than 1 diamond. You want to make sure that you give the system a moment to be able to count more than 1 diamond before it immediately picks up that you have 1 diamond counted thus far. And then this would basically remove this redstone block. Like these 2 blocks are in effect doing the same thing that these 2 blocks do, but because these 2 blocks alone can't do it when there's only 1 diamond or 1 item that you're checking for. So these are kind of a variation of those 2 blocks that do the same thing with a different condition, making sure that you only have 1 point in that one diamond count. So yeah, that's why this has a delay. It has a delay because you don't want this to activate unless you truly only have 1 diamond. So it basically gives the system a moment to make sure that you don't have more than 1 diamond, and then it will say, okay, these many ticks have passed. This player still only has 1 diamond. Clearly, they only have 1 diamond. So then it will return this block to air, and then this block can continue to. It will. This will turn this block right here to air. Sorry about that. And then this block right here will set a redstone block up here to properly start the system. Because the problem is when you have 1 diamond, the system up here doesn't get properly powered, and the system down here doesn't properly get depowered. It kind of messes up. This fixes that. Now this is just an optional failsafe. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. So it's totally optional. And this is the only command block in this entire system that will be running at all times. Technically, you can put like a 10 tick delay or even a 20 tick delay. It doesn't really matter. 20 ticks is once a second. 20 ticks represents a second. I would recommend definitely putting a tick delay in there because you don't want, if it's set to 0 ticks, that means that command is running 20 times a second, which can slow down a server if you have a bunch of these going on. So you want it to be as smart as possible and as least taxing on your server or realm as possible. So if you can get away with making sure that no command blocks are running, unless they need to be, then you should do that if you can. And in this case, this basically needs to be running. And rather than having it running so quickly, we can reduce the stress it puts on the server or realm by just making it once a second. It severely cuts, rather than 20 times a second, 1 time a second is substantially better for the server. Okay, so now that you understand that, what this is going to do here is test for at p tag equals 64d. So say a player is randomly disconnected. Now that's what the system is for. This system right here checks to see if a player randomly disconnected, because and then it will basically force the system to reset no matter what. So if the player suddenly disconnects and it can't detect a player with the tag 64D, and again, this is a repeat unconditional. This one's always active because we need it on. Basically, while there is a person that it can detect, while there is someone with this tag, this will be powered. And when this is powered, this redstone torch is not powered, which means this system is not powered. But as soon as that person disappears, as soon as there is no person with a tag of 64D, then this system, this will turn off, this comparator will turn off, and this redstone torch will turn back on and activate this system. Now, this reset system is all unconditional. So impulse unconditional needs redstone, and then these are chain unconditional always active. All 3 of these are chain unconditional always active. The reason that's the case is because it doesn't actually matter the order of these, or it doesn't matter if one fails. They should all execute no matter what. By the way, if you don't know the difference between conditional and unconditional, very quickly, if this block right here is set to unconditional, this block would not care if this block failed to execute. It would still execute no matter what. And if it executed successfully, it would carry the chain up anyway, even if this block failed. So basically that would be a problem, because that would start the system when you don't want to start, and that would not be good. So generally speaking, unless you know exactly what you're doing, you pretty much always want them to be chain conditional always active. And if you make that mistake of setting them unconditional when you shouldn't have, that's the number one cause of why a system will fail. Like if you're wondering, why does my system make my money go negative? Why does my system give me items when I don't have money? All of those questions, it's always because someone set the blocked unconditional somewhere. Like you messed up somewhere. And it's easy to overlook, especially when you place a new one. By default, when you place a command block, it's even a chain, it's set to unconditional. So I even myself, I've run into issues where I thought I already changed it to conditional, and I was like, why isn't my system working? What's wrong? And it's just one small minor thing that you can easily overlook. And yeah, so it can be troubling even if you know about it, because you may overlook it because you assume that you fixed it already. So it's important to know that conditional blocks can only execute if the block behind them executed successfully. So because these are conditional, this one, if this executes successfully, then this one will go, and then this one will go, and then this one will go. But if this one fails, if it can't execute, then these won't execute. So hopefully that makes sense. So here, there's 2 error blocks. So set block, coordinates error. Same thing, set block, coordinates error. And what that's doing is we don't know where the person disconnected and how far along they were in the system. So we're going to set this redstone block to error. Actually, I should just grab red wool just so you can see more succinctly. So we want to make sure that these 2 redstone blocks, pretend those redstone blocks, we want to make sure that those 2 redstone blocks are removed by the system, just in case they're there. If these were conditional, it would break, because if say this was already error, and just try to turn it into air, it would fail and it wouldn't be able to run. But you want these to be unconditional so that it will run it no matter what. So once those two blocks are definitely now air, now you can, again, why not just attempt to remove the tag from everyone anyway, in case someone else reconnected to the game or something. And now, same thing as always, we're going to reset the system. Again, this just forces it and makes sure it resets. Okay, so that is the entire basically clear minimum requirement system. That is the entire system explained. And if you wanted to use the system to instead buy buying items, like say you didn't want to use a currency system, like I have credits on the right side. If you instead want to just buy an elytra with like 64 diamonds straight up, you could use a system like this to specifically count your diamonds to make sure that it has enough. And what you would do is you would let me copy this command block. So just to give you an example, you might be like, okay, yeah, this is great. This lets me sell stuff, but how would I apply this to buying? Well, here's how you would do it. I'm just gonna place this here for a second and type it in on the fly for you. So what we're gonna do here is, okay, so we're gonna give at p blah blah blah. We can remove the tildes, and here it can be like elytra 1 0. Okay, let's see. Let's conditional, always active. Just want to make sure, so that way if you guys copy this, it will work properly. Okay, so basically what you would do is you can rename this to give. You would still want an air block in here to turn this back into air, but you would be able to remove this multiply block, remove this add block, and then insert this new give command, this give block, right here. Like you put this right where this is, because this has the argument of 64, limiting to 64. Say you wanted the that's literally all you would need to change. You just need to, you don't need multiply and add in there because you're not computing you're not using a scoreboard system. You're not using like a money system at that point. You just want to make sure you can count how many items you have and then buy something with those items. So then you could just use this in place of this air block right here. So you can copy this code. Now what's awesome about the system, it's really straightforward. If you wanted to change the price of something, you could very easily do that. If you want an elytra to cost 30 diamonds, well, now it's 30. If you want it to be 20, now it's 20. And the system will properly finish. You want to make sure, you don't even have to, everything up here is actually already fine. You don't even need to do anything. This will be 0, so you'll get your money back. If you say you went to buy and you only had 18 diamonds, you would get your 18 diamonds back all the same, and everything would be great. So this is perfect for. Why did I delete that? Why did I do that? Yeah, see, I already copied it. It's fine. But yeah, so this is what you would want to do, and this is perfect for if you want to buy something without using a currency system. I can show you that really quick. I'll just get rid of my items on me. I reset my money score back to 0. I do have a similar system over here. It's based on the same principles. Only this, again, is just purely just buying with diamonds. Again, I just showed you how to convert the other system to do that, but let's do that here. So I need 32 diamonds to buy. If I throw one, clearly it's not going to work. I'll show you that. Similar system, a little bit different layout. Clearly that didn't work. I don't have enough diamonds. As soon as I have enough diamonds, and I click it, there we go. I got my diamond sword. Obviously, that's a really bad buy. 32 diamonds for a single diamond sword is awful, but it's just I just wanted to show off the principle. Okay, so we'll go back over here and we'll quickly go over the next system as fast as possible. I'm sorry for the time in this video, but it is important that I explain this stuff. And there's a lot of new players or people who are new to command blocks who just it's very, very, very confusing to them, and I know from experience how confusing it is when you're you're first learning. Okay, so this system. Let's talk about this system. Now, this is great. This is like my go-to system when I just want to sell stuff. I'll grab some diamonds, so I have diamonds on me. Diamonds, even more diamonds. Why not? Okay, so structurally, this is pretty much identical to how this one's set up. We have a different tag that we're using this time. First we're still checking for the selling tag initially. So clear at P tag equals selling, diamond 0, 0. Again, you should understand that by this point if you watched the earlier part of the video. And same principles go into how this is set up, where it's testing to see if this is powered or not powered. If this is unpowered, then the negative feedback loop will play, and here's the commands for that. I'll just go through them quickly. Again, as always, impulse is generally always unconditional needs redstone. Here's the command. Here's the commands. Chain conditional, always active. All these are chain conditional, always active, unless I tell you otherwise. Again, pause if you need to. I'm just trying to go faster over some of this stuff that's a bit redundant at this point. And this at the end, the point of this being here is just in the event that a player, I'll show you this at the end, but in the event that a player got disconnected and no longer has that tag, or still has that tag rather, then this will let them reset themselves and start the system again. So it doesn't jam when they try to use the system again. I'll show you that too. And once again, you've seen this, and more chain conditionals. Now we're going to add all diamonds. We want a new tag to separate the system. We don't want the systems using the same tag between them. Now here's a redstone block. This is going to be redstone block. We're going to have 2 redstone blocks here. We're going to have 1 redstone block here. This is going to remove the comparator. It's going to reset that to air. You've seen that now already. Same here. We're going to set another redstone block. Now all this is doing, it has one more redstone block, and that's because, let's see, it's going to actually I can just get an actual block for this. Okay. One of those redstone locations is right here, and the purpose of that is that this system, you can sell a lot more than just 64 diamonds. Like it will count this up really, really, really quickly. Like you'll be lucky if you can walk out the door by the time this counts up at 20 diamonds a second. You won't get far. But this system, let's say you had a ton of items, like say you had like 3 stacks of 64 diamonds or 4 stacks of 64 diamonds or something, or if you were using emeralds and you had tons of stacks. This system could potentially be running longer than other systems. So I think it's nice to provide that feedback. So if you walk away and another player comes in here and wants to use the system, they can't because the button is still disabled, but they'll know that the system is in use because this light will be on. And as part of this system, once it ends, one of the ending processes is that it removes this redstone block, and then that turns off, meaning the system is ready to be used. So this system is significantly simpler, and the reason for that is because we don't need to use as many scoreboards, for one, and we don't need to do any math between the scoreboards, which is wonderful, and we don't need to count any items. We don't actually have to count to make sure you have a certain number of items, certain number of diamonds for anything. So here, so you've seen that. Okay. Now here is a command. Repeat unconditional needs redstone. No delays or anything. Clear at P tag equals all diamonds. Diamond 0, 1. So this is taking 1 diamond away, and every time it takes 1 away, it's going to actually instantly give you that diamond's currency value right away. And we can do this because we know we don't have to count the diamonds to make sure to check them against a specific number. Like we don't need to make sure we have 64 and account for the fact that you might not have 64 and then do math. Instead, we know that whatever diamonds you have on you, we're going to sell no matter what. We don't care how many you have. So because of that, we can just instantly remove a diamond from you and then execute this command, which is scoreboard players add at P tag equals all diamonds and money 100. So that's just adding 100 for every diamond that's removed. So at the same time, the next command is title at P tag equals all diamonds action bar processing. So basically, I think it's kind of cool. It provides that constant feedback that the system is running. Don't worry, the system's currently running. It's working to finish. And So the way this works is so simple. It just goes back and forth in a loop over and over again. So it removes the diamond, adds, it removes the diamond from you and it adds it to your currency. Processing, remove the diamond, adds it to your currency over and over, really quickly, 20 times a second, blazing fast. And as soon as there's no more diamonds to clear from you, this comparator will turn off. It will turn on this redstone torch, and when that redstone torch turns on, this system will be enabled. And this system is just the basically the system that resets the whole system and then finalizes like giving the player messages and whatnot. So we want to return this block. We want to return this block back from a redstone block to air. So that's the first thing that happens here. Impulse Unconditional needs redstone. Again, no tick delay in any of these. All of these blocks are actually going to be unconditional. None of these need to be conditional. This, again, very specific. They can all be unconditional, and they should be. If you want them to be, if you want the system to be smart in the event that a player disconnects, it will reset no matter what. So here, again, like I said, chain unconditional, always active. Set block coordinates air. So these two air blocks are removing this redstone block and then also this redstone block. So these get evaporated right off the bat. And then it says, it gives a sold message to that player so you know, okay, diamond sold successfully. Again, pause if you need to. And then it plays a positive sound to that player. And then now that we don't need to target that player with any more commands, we can actually remove this all diamonds tag. Oops. Finally, we're going to reset the system by cloning the comparator back to the start. So very simple system by comparison. It's really smart the way it's designed. It's pretty much entirely foolproof. Now let me show you what happens if you try to use these systems and say you disconnect from the game. So I'm pretty happy with how this works. It's pretty neat. So let me make sure I need to copy this command, otherwise I might not be able to type it in time. Okay, that's copied. Let me make sure I add the thing. Okay, so I'm going to click it. It's going to start set into motion. Oops. Okay, I just canceled it. Basically, I just removed the tag for myself manually, which normally a player would not be able to do this. But that is basically pretending I got disconnected. That's exactly what would happen if I got disconnected. Basically, the game just suddenly stopped being able to detect the player who started the system. And as you can see, there are no redstone blocks currently running, and the comparator is reset at the beginning. That's because the system is really smartly designed where it will not mess up like that, which is so awesome. Now, if I was a player who did really get disconnected, I would technically still have this tag when I come back, because the game would not have been able to remove it from me when I was not there. So this, so now I'm going to add that tag back to myself, pretending I just reconnected to the server. So I currently have that tag now, and I'm going to show you what happens if I try to use it. If I try to use the system, it's the same with this system, exact same. If I try to use the system now, technically it's going to try to add the tag, and it's actually going to fail, and so it's not going to be able to start the system. So watch. I'm not going to be able to start the system. At the same time, it's not going to be able to power the negative feedback loop and remove the tag for myself because I currently have diamonds. And again, this is still testing positively. It's just getting stuck right here. Again, it's conditional, so it's not going to go up this chain unless it can do this. But you can't set these as unconditional because you'll break the whole system. You have to. So the only way you can account for this is you need this negative feedback loop to be able to run, so that you can remove this diamonds tag from yourself. Again, it's the same exact thing with this system. So if in the off chance a player actually got disconnected and actually needed to use these systems again, not a problem. You just drop their diamonds, so they don't have diamonds anymore. So this chain will properly execute because it's saying you don't have diamonds anymore. When I run it, it says you don't have any diamonds, but at the same time, what it just did was it removed that diamond tag silently. So now if I pick up my diamonds and I go to use the system, it will continue as always with no issue. And you can see as soon as the system finishes, the redstone blocks get removed. Yeah, I believe that's everything I wanted to go over. I apologize. I know that was a lot, but this is a system that's been highly, highly requested, and it's all over the internet. It's all over Reddit. It's all over YouTube comments. People are always asking me, how do you set a minimum clear requirement? How do you do that? This is how you do it. This is, I think, the coolest way to do it. This is technically the fastest, easiest way to do it for the player. It's a bit more work for the person coding the system, but it's much better for the users. It's just such an easy system to use, and it's so smart. So this is perfect for all realms and servers. If you guys like my video, this is my very first one. I have I'm pretty much obsessed with helping people in this game with commands. So, and I have a lot of really, honestly exciting creations to show you guys that I think you're going to love. So if you're interested in seeing all that stuff, please give me a follow and a like, and please comment. I know this video was a bit long-winded, but I really tried to keep it only to the information that you guys would seriously need. I tried not to ramble. So, yeah, thank you for your time, guys, and have a nice day.